Hey, Nick Darr here with Business Over a Brew. Pleased to shoot this episode at the Old Bakery Beer Company here in Alton. As a lot of you know, the location where we used to shoot the show, Great Rivers Tap and Grill, decided to close down, as businesses do sometimes, and kind of left us scrambling a little bit, looking for a location to shoot our next episode. And on very short notice, we called Lauren at Old Bakery here, and she was immediately said, "Sure, come down and shoot it." So just very generous of them to let us use the space on such short notice to shoot the show here. It's a really terrific business. They really run a great place here at Old Bakery. And it's a good fit for our show too, because they're a great business, and obviously they serve brew and make it here. So it's a terrific place to have it. If you haven't had lunch here or dinner, I highly recommend you do that. The food is terrific. The beer selection is great bourbon selection as well. So it's just a great place to hang out in a historic building here in Alton. So come check out Old Bakery Beer, and thanks again to Lauren and everybody for letting us have the show here at Old Bakery in Alton. Welcome to Business Over a Brew. I'm your host, Nick Darr. Pleased to be joining you from Old Bakery Beer Company here. Thanks to the Riverbend Growth Association, of course, for sponsoring. Of course, contractually obligated to wear their shirt here. That was the deal we made, that if I would, they'd sponsor, I'd wear their shirt. So here it is, a nice shirt. Thanks to the Growth Association for the shirt. Appreciate it. So this is a show where we talk business with some of the Riverbend's most interesting and influential business leaders. Very pleased to be joined in this episode by Dr. Clay Roby from Wood River Chiropractic. Dr. Roby, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Just tell us a little bit of personal history about yourself. Where'd you grow up? Where are you from? All that good stuff.
Yeah, I'm originally from Southern Illinois. I grew up in a very small town down there. Did my undergrad work down there, and then I went to Logan in Chesterfield. I met a girl and we got married, and I moved to Troy. So I've been in this area since about 2010. I had a practice on my own, and then I ended up in Wood River at the office that I'm at now.
We were talking about before we turned the cameras on, you grew up in a pretty small town.
Yeah, very small town. It's called Gallatin County. There's a few people from this area. I've noticed from working here that there were a lot of farm families that moved to the Wood River area for the refinery when it opened. And actually, it's kind of crazy. My grandma, my mom's mom, was from Wood River.
Really?
And moved to Gallatin County when her parents went down to farm. So I have an uncle in the area, a great uncle that I didn't know until I moved here. So
it's funny how things kind of come full circle sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure is. I have patients that are from my hometown area, and every time they know where I'm from, I'm baffled.
Right, yeah, because not a lot of people have heard of Gallatin County, I guess, right?
No.
And you said everybody in the county went to the same school.
Yeah, so Gallatin County, we went to one building, K through 12. I graduated with 60 kids. My county doesn't have a traffic light, fast food restaurant, or a grocery store.
So small town USA, right?
Farming, that's what we do.
Right. So grew up in that community. How did you come to get into the chiropractic field?
Yeah, so I was influenced in high school by some really good teachers. I had a great science teachers. They kind of, anatomy was kind of my thing. So I knew I wanted to go into kind of healthcare. When I was 17, we went on a school skiing trip. I broke both my legs snow skiing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and just kind of seeing the healthcare field and seeing some of the drugs that were pushed, I kind of wanted to stay away from that, and that led me to chiropractic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, let's segue into that a little bit, and we'll go back to some of the history of the business. But it's a different philosophy of healthcare, the chiropractic field, versus maybe what you would consider traditional medicine.
Yeah. I think when I look at just kind of the way society is, and I kind of look at healthcare as sick care. We go to the doctors or, seek care when we don't feel well.
Right.
And I feel like chiropractic is kind of the opposite of that. It's where we start usually. People feel bad when they come in, but chiropractic is kind of keeping people well is the way I look at it. And then to speak of drugs, it's been a problem, for a while. I think it's coming to light. There's Netflix shows and stuff about it now.
Right, yeah.
But we're looking at getting people well without the need of prescription drugs. And there is a place for all of that, drugs and surgery. We just think it's a last resort, not a first.
Right. And talk about that concept of, not being hurt to go to the chiropractor, because that's probably the perception that a lot of people have.
Right. Yeah. That's typically where we see people. They come in with low back pain, headache. Somebody told them that, they should go here. Sometimes we see people that have gone everywhere else and failed, taken drugs or, tried things that haven't worked, and then they end up where we are. And so we get good results. When you look at just kind of the well care, we have people that come in and they're curious about just wellness, feeling good, or maybe they got minor aches and pains, and we explain that, on a 10 scale, which we use at the office, 10 being the worst pain you've ever felt.
Right.
Sometimes people come in with 1s and 2s, but when we get them down to a 0, it's a pretty different quality of life when that changes. So.
And a lot of the 1s and 2s probably think this is just normal. That's
Yes.
how life is.
Oh yeah, I can't tell you the amount of people that tell me I'm having a regular amount of headaches, like 2 to 3 a week. That's the regular should be 0. It's always neat to see where people put things.
It's not a new field. Obviously, chiropractic's been around for a long time, but there's still maybe a little bit of mystery out there about it. I was actually at a meeting last week, and a chiropractor was talking about how when you crack your neck, you don't really know what you're doing. Like
Right.
You're not cracking the right thing.
Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah.
expand upon that a little
Yeah,
bit.
so we have people, self-adjust or, pop their own necks or crack their own necks. When people do that, a lot of times what we're doing is we're adjusting things or moving things that are already somewhat mobile. You're getting things to do. What we're looking at are the restricted areas, the areas that aren't moving well to adjust. And we use a specific, depending on where it's at, technique or, line of drive to get the restricted areas moving. Some people just turn their head and they can hear pops, and that's pretty common. We like to see that. Just means the body's mobile, but it's the restricted areas that when we get that, you've got full range.
Right.
Yep.
It's probably different for everybody, but on average, how often would you recommend maybe somebody just in the wellness or maintenance phase see a chiropractor?
If you're, if we can get you out of pain and things are feeling good, what we typically recommend is like once a month. We have people that come in once a week, every 2 weeks, but typically we see people about once a month.
Right.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about the business side of it too, just in terms of it, you probably you grew up and you wanted to get in the chiropractic field, but there's a whole nother side of it, which is the business side of it. So talk about getting started and kind of like what that was like. How did you get started in it?
So after school, they touch on business just very little at school.
Right.
I think they're working on adding more of that now, which is good. I think they saw the lack of that. But getting out, I started out, I worked in Swansea. I did an independent contractorship, so I rented space from another chiropractor. Doing that for a while, I got to see a successful business run. That meant a lot to me, but being in with another doc that was successful kind of was a little hard on business because, he was a great chiropractor, still is in the area. And so being under him, kind of fighting for business was kind of difficult. I ended up moving from there to a place in Glen Carbon where I worked at a place that kind of fed patients to you, which was good. Being out of school newly, it was nice to see, a lot of people and understand, adjusting a little bit better, getting started. And then when I moved to Wood River, we took over a practice that was existing, changed some things. It was a little slow start, but as far as business goes, and learning stuff, podcasts are so nice now. Learning leadership skills, that's important.
Right.
Running a team. There's a lot that you just learn as you go, I guess. Having some really good mentors has helped too.
Right. It's because it's a lot more than just the science of it and the adjustment of it. I mean, probably that's maybe, I don't know what percentage of your business it is, but a big percentage is, like you said, leading a team and advertising, marketing. How do you do all those things? How do you get patients?
When you're done with school, a chiropractic is the easy part.
Mm-hmm.
The business part is probably, I say, the way more difficult part.
Whether it was in school or once you got out of the field, do you remember the first adjustment that you had to make or the first patient that you saw?
Oh, no, because when you're in school, you're seeing patients. So you're seeing people while you're in school, new patients. So I remember a few of those. I think the one that sticks out in my mind was the first difficult patient that I had that came in for a non-chiropractic related issue. He had a blood clot in his leg and thought he had sciatica. So we sent him to the emergency room.
Right.
But that's something that sticks out in my mind, which is not a chiropractic related thing. But knowing when to treat people and when not to treat people is also very important.
Right. And sometimes difficult patients, it doesn't mean it's a difficult case. It just means they're difficult
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there's another skill you have to have.
There's a few
as
of
a
those as well.
chiropractor.
Yeah.
So talk about the progression then down and deciding to open your practice in Wood River.
Yeah, so when we bought a practice that was existing in Wood River, and changed a few things, which was kind of a slow start. Once we kind of got things figured out, it went well. We were talking earlier, we were in the old Shell Credit Union in Wood River. It's a really large building,
Right.
as you're aware, with a few steps to get to where we treated. So now the location that we're in, we built out the way we wanted it, and it flows really well with what we're doing. We have a great staff. Things run so smoothly. We have a huge, a big team. We have 3 other offices in kind of the Metro East area. So we've got a nice team that we get together and do training that helps. But it's been good getting bigger, and some of that's growing pains, but it's been really well.
Probably helps from a camaraderie standpoint too, just getting off the island a little bit, and having other people to discuss the practice with and some of the trials and tribulations.
Yeah, most definitely. We started doing a couple years ago where we bring in preceptors from Logan. So Logan does when they're in a 9 and 10. There's 10 trimesters, so they go three trimesters a year, no summer break, which was not fun when you were in school.
Right, no. Yeah.
But so on their last 2 trimesters, 9 and 10, they get to go out and go into a clinic and shadow a doc work. They can work under our license. So we've done that for the last couple of years. Having interns has been a fun experience too, to kind of get to see what's new, what kids are learning, how school has changed, but also to watch them treat people. Helps at the office as well to have an extra hand.
Right, and I think a lot of times it is good to be around young people because you can get, like, for me, grumpy old man syndrome, like the millennials and the Gen Zers, and you get maybe a skeptical view of them. I think what I have found though is that it's not. No generation can be summed up by one thing. Like everybody's different in each generation. So it's not like I do cringe a little bit when I hear people say, "Oh, young people today, they don't want to work."
Yeah.
Because I've got 2 kids, and one's a worker and one is not. So it's not, and they're the same age pretty much. So it's like it's not always just that generation.
Yeah.
It's it's different, but it does kind of keep you in tune with what's going on. And
You get to see the perspective when I've had multiple students to see the different paths that they've taken in school, where some people are kind of going above and beyond or doing things on their own, and then they come into the office and you see a big difference. I think talking about the workers versus the non-workers, you can really see that in practice and know where they're going to end up, and looking back, thinking, oh, I would have done these things differently to kind of be where some of these students are, and it's interesting, but I think it's background, and like you said, maybe a little bit of internal drive.
Right. I do think maybe the percentages are not as high as they were in some of the older generations. Like, well, just out of necessity, like generations like mine and my parents and their grandparents, like there was no choice. You had to work. And if we want to blame anybody for the younger generations, it's our fault because coddling them and not making them work when they were younger.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
I think that's part of it too. What have been some of the biggest challenges for you in the practice?
Yeah, I think just getting your name out there. Where I was before, and having some competition, which I think is always good to have some competition. But here it's just getting your name out. Now I think we're kind of name recognition in Wood River. We've got a good patient base. I think referrals are always good when they come for your patients. And I think when you get to a point of, once you get established, it becomes a little bit better that people recognize you. So getting that recognition when you're new, I think was probably the most difficult part.
Sure.
Yep.
And that definitely probably a process that takes a little bit of time, and probably like most of your business to come from repeat and referral business.
Yeah, most definitely. I think, looking at just getting started, again, some of the business stuff, the chiropractic stuff is easy. You learn that in school.
Right.
Staffing, hiring people, that becomes a challenge. Right now we're at Wood River, we're staffed. If anybody's watching that knows us, we have a great staff. which makes things so much easier at work. Having a great team, like you
Doesn't it?
said,
Yeah,
the other
right.
offices, when we work together, if there's a problem, I've got colleagues and peers that I can call to ask questions to. So
I was just at a meeting with a business owner before I came here, and they were talking about how difficult it is for them to find people, and their business is a lot different than mine in terms of what they're hiring. But I was just talking about how, and it's not like anything intentional that we did, but just how really fortunate and blessed we've been to have 25 plus year people on our team. We've got so many of those. It's like, I don't know what we did. I can't imagine it's that they like working for me, but they've stuck around for some reason. I guess radio's fun, but so it's not every business that's not, that's understaffed, but it is certainly an issue. And when you do have to try to find somebody, it can be a challenge.
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
most definitely. And it's I think it's just across the board. I've talked to other business owners, and I think a lot of people have run into that. We were staffed good before COVID, which I think after COVID was a whole different thing. But
wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah. Thinking about talking to you today, I think one of the big things that makes our office even more successful is that we're flexible. When things change, we've changed with them.
Right.
The masks and things coming off of COVID and just changing the way office procedures have gone. But it's all been good, and some of those changes we've kept.
Long term, what do you think the impact of COVID will be on the chiropractic field?
Yeah, one thing that I took away from it, when people were talking about the vaccines, safe, easy, and effective. I think that's chiropractic. Chiropractic is safe, easy, and effective.
Mm-hmm.
That was one thing I pulled from their slogan. But we had a lot of people that came in just looking for more of a to stay well, which we had talked about earlier. That well care, just staying healthy, is really important. Misalignments in the spine cause a lot of things, and if you're functioning at 100%, your body can fight things better than if it wasn't.
It's an interesting practice in that you do have there's kind of evangelists for chiropractic, people that are like all about it.
Yes.
Like I'm a believer. Like it's worked for me.
Yeah.
I've heard great stories of working on colicky babies and things like that.
Yeah.
And but then there are some people like, I got messed up by a chiropractor one time and I'm not going back.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's there's kind of extremes. It seems like.
Yep. We see it a lot. People will come in hesitant to get adjusted. I had a new patient just this week. She was very scared to come in and talk. We have an easy process to get started, or we talk a lot to get started. We do our tests that we want to do and any x-rays that are necessary, but just sitting down and talking to her about what we're gonna do, and I could tell she felt relieved with that. But some people they jump into things, and I think that there can be some soreness after like a first adjustment. If you don't explain that, and then people feel a little soreness, they're like, oh, maybe I feel a little worse than before. But sometimes that's part of the process. If it's explained, then that makes it a little bit where it's not so bad. But we've had people that have had really bad experiences and really good experiences, like you said, all across the board. And the difference between chiropractic and other professions is chiropractic is a bit of an art. Everybody adjusts a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So you could see one person and it works well for you and another that doesn't.
Right. Well, I think you hit it earlier too and say it's probably the best place to start though.
Yeah.
Rather than jumping to surgery or medications.
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, safe, easy, and effective. If you start with us, you're not doing surgery, drugs, and I'll be the first to tell you if you're my patient that we're not getting where we need to go.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get you somewhere,
right?
To get what you need.
Sure.
Yeah.
What's been give us just a really good experience, a really good day that you had where you really thought this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it happens a little bit each day. You've got patients that sometimes are a little difficult to get better, but you have somebody that comes in that's, crying in pain, and you see them a couple times and they're not anymore. I've got a patient right now that was on opioids that's cut his prescription in half.
Wow.
Which was, quite heavy, so that makes a difference. I feel good when that happens. But there's so many people that we talk to that, want to play with their kids on the floor, their grandkids, and do these things. And when we're able to change that, it can be emotional for patients to be able to do things that they wanted to do without, drugs and surgery. We see some patients that are addicts, that don't want to take any meds, that are in pain. That's always a good feeling to know that we can give them relief without, kind of maybe getting close to going back down a road they don't want to.
Right.
So, but yeah, every day is a pretty good day when you see people feel better.
Sure. A couple the last few questions. Who have been some of the biggest mentors in your life that have helped you?
Yeah, Dr. Kelly Stanfield. I met him about 7 years ago. Just an amazing doctor. He's helped me out tremendously. I had Chiro, the guy that I told you I started business with. Just to watch him practice, it was, to see somebody be super successful and help so many people. I've got a couple buddies that, I graduated college with that I talk to often. But, there's a handful that have just, kind of help you through. I've got a friend, he went to med school, he's a radiologist, but I'll call him if I've got questions. And so we talk kind of medical field stuff. So I've got a really good group of people that I can talk to. I didn't mention this earlier, but my wife is a pharmacist, and so I have a lot of pharmacy friends. And so to talk to them and to see all of them want to get adjusted always makes me feel good.
So you're not anti-pharmacy,
No,
clearly.
no,
you can't be,
no,
right?
no. Well, we do have a little bit of banner when we see commercials come on TV on
Sure.
when they get to the side effects part. My wife's like, I know.
Right. Yeah. The 15-second long side effect.
Yeah.
Well, I think if it causes that, I probably don't want to take it. But,
That's right.
You guys do a lot in the community. Talk a little bit about that community involvement.
Yeah.
Too.
So we do a give back program. We will do offers where we can come into people's businesses, and we typically bring lunch, or we can do breakfast, coffee, things like that. And then we do spinal screenings. And when we do spinal screenings, our initial consultation, exam, and x-rays, if they're needed, is $40. So right now we're donating to the Alton Boys and Girls Club. So any event that we do, that $40 that we get, you pay for your consultation, we turn around and donate that $40. So right now we're working on raising $5,000 for the Alton Boys and Girls Club.
Very cool.
We just presented them a couple weeks ago with half of that. We kind of do it in 2 segments. Riverbend Family Ministries was our last one. We just gave them $5,000. So we like to give back to the community. We're always open to any charities, in the area. We're happy to do that. Al from Alton Boys and Girls Club is a patient of mine.
Awesome.
And so we like to help them out.
Very cool. That's great. I mean, that's kind of, obviously businesses are in business to make a profit and help people, but it's great when you can give back to the community
for
too.
sure. Yep. And it's fun too. We have patients that really, we have a thermometer at the office that we raise. And so people get pretty excited about it, and it makes things fun at the office.
Awesome. You're doing great things.
Yeah.
So any areas that we didn't touch on that you want to make sure we mention?
No, I don't think so.
Wow, look at what a great interview. I covered it all.
Yeah.
If somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Yeah. So our office is across from Walmart in Wood River in the same complex as Dollar Tree. Our phone number is 618-254-9355. Call. We'll happily get you an appointment.
Dr. Clay Roby, Wood River Chiropractic, thanks so much for coming on Business Over Brew.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.